When we graph lines from data, we're looking for a direct relationship so that we can create a mathematical and then a general equation to represent the equation we derive. Not all relationships, however, are direct. If, for example, you find a quadratic relationship, the following is how you're going to straighten that, linearize the data, in order to find an equation. To begin, let's do a quick review of our graph relationships. This shape right here we call a direct relationship. It's a nice, straight, direct line. We don't have to do anything to it. It's already straight. Here we have a quadratic relationship. This is the relationship we'll be exploring a bit more. In order to straighten a quadratic relationship, you need to square all of the x values, x squared. This graph we call the inverse relationship. In order to straighten it, you're going to take all of your x values and invert them, or 1 over x. Here we call a square root relationship. In order to straighten it, we're going to square all of the y values, or y squared. In order to straighten a quadratic relationship, we need to remember that the quadratic relationship can be at its very basis represented by y equals x squared. That's a great memory tool to help us remember that we need to square all of our x values. We're going to square all of our x values. We can do this manually or using equations in the graphing program. We're not just squaring the individual data points, we also need to square the time. So the variable is squared. Time squared. Because we're squaring the variable, we also need to square the unit. So seconds squared. This is where we get seconds squared in meters per second squared. If you needed to straighten the graph by hand, you could manually square all the values. We have our position, we have our time data. Time is graphed on our x-axis because it is an independent variable. So I'm going to square our x values. This is just a calculator moment. 0.1 squared gives us 0.01. 0.134 squared gives us 0.018. 0.167 squared gives us 0.028, and so on and so forth. We would then redraw our graph or plot our graph using the time squared data instead of the time data. If you're graphing using a spreadsheet program, you would just need to take those data points that are already present and put in a caret 2. That makes it a squared value. So add to the formula that already exists, caret 2.